Hello, my name is Jack and this is Entertainment World. On this video I will be reviewing Batman Begins, which is in my top 5 films. It is my third favourite film, behind Bumblebee and The Dark Knight. It is one of my favourite comic book films ever made, and it's in my favourite trilogy, so you know, Batman Begins, Dark Knight, Dark Knight Rises. I think it's a great starting point for basically any trilogy or franchise or film series or anything really. I think it's just one of the best starting points of any form of storytelling ever made. So I'll be doing the review now. There won't be any spoilers really, just in case you haven't watched it, and if that's the case, why haven't you watched it? It's really good. So I'll be doing the review first. I'll give my score for it, and then I'll go into spoilers, analyse things in more detail. So if you've watched it, make sure to watch that as well. So now that I've done that little bit, got that out of the way, I will be starting off with the negatives, because I like to start off with the negatives, get them out of the way and then talk about the good stuff later. But the thing is, there aren't actually many negatives with this film. I think if you were to really look for some negatives, it is quite long, and it would probably put some people off if they're just looking for a fun family night comic book film, as it sort of isn't. It really isn't that. It's very serious. It's got quite a dark tone to it. Again, like I said, it is very long in runtime, something like 2 hours 20 minutes, which is longer than a lot of the older comic book films. I mean, most comic book films are around that length now, but it's a lot longer than they used to be. So if you just want a fun, quick film to watch with your kids or younger siblings, or even if you just want to watch something like that yourself, this might not be the best film to watch in that instance, due to the fact it is very serious, it is quite long, and it does have quite a dark nature to it. And it doesn't have much tension relief. There is some humour in there, and granted the humour is actually very good in the film, but I don't think it would be enough. If you compare it, if you want to watch a Marvel film, let's say one of the MCU films, it hasn't got as much humour in as those films, and you'd probably end up get a bit bored with this, if that is what you're looking for. So, and again, if I was really to pick, be a bit picky, some of the models haven't aged as well as the models in the other two films, but that's if I was being a really, really picky person. I just wanted to be a miserable bastard, really. So, now the positives. Christian Bale, who plays Bruce Wayne, who is also Batman, is probably the best Batman, you could say. I mean, I would have him tied with Ben Affleck, because I really like Ben Affleck as Batman. But Christian Bale absolutely nails the character in every single way. Because he starts off as this guy who's lost, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's in prison at the start of the film, and this guy comes to him and says, look, you can either spend the rest of your life just fighting criminals and being no better than them and just wind up in prison after prison, or you can come with me and I can teach you to be more than what you are now. More than basically a man. I can make you become a symbol and make you stand for something. Of course, Bruce Wayne then goes with this man, and he learns how to. He learns to fight. He learns the skill set he needs to become Batman. He learns how to control his anger, his fears, his basically resentment to most things around him, and he basically, learns that the guy was right, that to truly take on the criminal element in the way he wants to, he has to be more than just a person, because a person can be killed, a person can be destroyed, a person can be locked up, and it wouldn't mean anything. But if you're a symbol, that can't be destroyed, that can't be locked up, and that can't just be gotten rid of, because it means something. It will mean something to people. And of course that's where the whole idea of the Batman comes from, because Bruce Wayne is scared of bats himself because of an incident when he was a child, and because of that he decides, I'm going to dress up as a bat, I'm going to make all the criminals share my fear, and I'll be a symbol of hope to the good people of the city and a symbol of fear and terror to the people who prey on the fearful, which I think is great. I think it actually gives it a bit of a logical motive as well, because usually when you look at Batman, he's a guy dressed as a bat, you would think, what the hell is wrong with you? But this film gives him an actual reason to be dressed like that, other than because he can. It gives him a purpose. It gives the whole persona of the Batman a genuine purpose, and I really like that. And Christian Bale portrays it fantastically. You believe he's Batman. When I'm watching this film, I don't look, oh, it's Christian Bale, I think it's Batman. And of course, when an actor's giving a performance, especially in a film like this, that's what you want them to come across as. You don't want them to come across as them, you want them to come across as the character they're portraying, and he does that brilliantly. Michael Caine is also great as Alfred. I think this is probably one of his best roles out of his very long career. He just, I think again, I don't want to keep saying everyone nails it, but he does nail it. He's this guy who you can tell cares for Bruce, wants to support Bruce, and is very strong himself, but he's scared that Bruce doesn't fully comprehend what he's doing and what his actions will lead to. And I think again he does that very well, and there's a lot of moments between him and Bruce which are very emotional, and there's a proper father-son relationship there, and I think it was really unique. It's certainly up until that point, it was certainly the best Bruce Wayne and Alfred relationship, because the Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer, and then the atrocity that was George Clooney Batman didn't really have that, whereas I'm not sure about the Adam West Batman and Alfred relationship, but I can't imagine it would have been better than this film's, no offence. And like I said, it just comes across really well. It was the best one at this point, because I do also like Ben Affleck's and Jeremy Irons' relationship as well, but that is more funny than relationship wise. It's more, it's got more humour to it than actual character depth, whereas this one has just a lot of character depth as well as a lot of humour, which again, well, I know I said there wasn't a lot of humour, but the humour that comes from the film is mostly between Alfred and Bruce. Gary Oldman as actually I can't remember what grade he is in this film. I think he's lieutenant. I might be wrong. He might be a sergeant. I can't remember. I think he's a lieutenant. As Lieutenant Gordon, because he's not Commissioner Gordon yet, was great. I think he was the perfect casting choice. He is quite serious, yet hopeful. You can tell he wants the city to be better than it is, but he also understands the chances are that's never going to happen. So he's one of the best side characters, especially in comic book films, because usually side characters don't really mean a lot, because you only want to watch, the main character. So it's great that this film had a great side character in him. Cillian Murphy, who is really young in this film, especially when you compare him to things like now, like Peaky Blinders and Dunkirk. He looks really young in this film, and of course that would be the case, you know, when you get older you look older, but it's just strange looking at him this young. And he plays Dr. Jonathan Crane, also known as the Scarecrow, and this was the first live-action version of the Scarecrow in a big Batman film. I think the Adam West Batman film had Scarecrow in it, but this is the first time he's been given like a proper portrayal in a big budget film with quite a well-known actor. And Cillian Murphy again plays him really well. Very serious, you can tell he loves what he does, and that's just causing chaos and putting people in horrible mental conditions, and he's actually really freaky when you think about it. And you can tell he enjoys it because he's got this bit of a smile when he finally gets to pull the mask out and put it on, do the voice changer, spray them with the gas and give them a horrible dream. And he's great in the film as well. Overall, I think he was probably one of the better Batman villains out of all of them, like the older films as well, because he just comes across like a really creepy guy, but you can also believe that he's not completely psychotic. You wouldn't look at him and go, how is he working here? Like, there's clearly something wrong with him. He's not that kind of person. But you can tell there's something about him that is a bit off. And of course, the audience gets to see him when he's in his full Scarecrow mode, and when he's like that, he is actually quite scary. And his nightmare hallucination scenes are also really cool. Morgan Freeman, this will be quite a quick one, but he plays Lucius Fox, and he's basically the guy who gives Bruce Wayne the equipment from Wayne Tech, from that subdivision of Wayne Enterprises, and he sort of covers Bruce's track, so it's no one's snooping around like where's this gone. He keeps it very well hidden and is giving it to Bruce to be Batman with, used to be Batman. And he was quite cool as well. He was a great bit of the film, and he actually did have, in all fairness, a couple good moments of humour as well. And he was very cool. The actual plot of this film, without spoiling it, is... Actually, I'm going to just be honest, I think it's incredible. I think it's one of the best origin stories I've ever seen, because usually they're a bit boring, you don't care, you're like, oh, I already know what it is. Whereas this one portrays it in such a unique way, in that you just believe that you believe the characters' motivations, you believe the journeys that led them to where they are now, and not just with Bruce, with everyone else around him. Actually, nearly forgot, Katie Holmes is also great as Rachel Dawes, who is Bruce Wayne's love interest and childhood friend, and she was actually really great as well. So I nearly forgot to mention her. She was also great as well. And she's also got a great story in this film, They were childhood friends. He left for years after they fell out. She never saw him, and then he came back 7 years later, and he's just come back as this arrogant playboy arsehole, because that's what he has to come across, otherwise people would just suspect he's Batman. And you can see that she's really disappointed with Bruce, and you can see that it breaks Bruce Wayne's heart to have to behave like that when that's not what he wants to do. He wants to be with her, he wants to have a relationship with her. He doesn't want to have to, act towards her like he's this just rich dickhead, which he's having to do, and that's quite a good, relationship in a strange way. It adds to both of their characters, and it shows that being Batman isn't always a good thing. You know, it comes with negatives. You can't have normal relationships or normal friendships because, you know, if they find out he's Batman, that puts them at risk. If other people find out he's Batman, that also puts them at risk. And that's what he's having to, you know, realise, because of a scene earlier in the film where he realised, I can't just go up and threaten people, because that's what he did. He threatened the mobster, and the mobster was like, you know, you think because your mummy and daddy got shot, you have nothing to lose, but you have everything to lose. People, you know, you haven't thought about your lady friend at the DA's office. You haven't thought about your old butler, because he didn't realize, he didn't think it through. It was that moment he realised, I can't just go around threatening people. So he hides his persona as the Batman from not only his enemies but from the people he cares about. And you know, the way they portrayed his parents' death as well, Bruce Wayne's parents' death, was very unique. Usually it's quite glossed over. It's just you know, very quick flashbacks, and it's just to show, oh, he's pissed off. He just wants to beat up criminals because, you know, his parents got shot. Whereas in this one, you really see the driving force behind it. You really see why he wants to do that, why he wants to fight criminals, because he really he hates the whole injustice of it all. He even though he's rich and lives in the big house, and you would think he's got a happy, wonderful life full of prizes and just, you know, what's it like to be a general rich person, you know, how that would, well, people, you know, if you look at a rich person, you'd think, oh, he has it all, he can have whatever he wants, he could be friends with anyone he wants to be friends with, he can just party all day, you know, all the women are throwing themselves at him, and that sort of thing, whereas and that's what people view him as. But as the audience, you really get to see that he truly understands what it's like to be the little man, what it's like to be there helpless, not able to do anything whilst someone basically rips your world away from you. And I love that about this film, how they really hammer in the driving force between him wanting to become Batman, why it's so important to him that he does what he does. I just think it was absolutely fantastic. I don't want to ruin all the plot, but I'll just say it's very good. It is worth watching as well. There's quite a few good twists. Like I said, it's quite hard to talk about without spoiling it, but I think the plot's it's worth watching for just the overall plot as well. The action sequences, cinematography, and the way it's all edited is absolutely fantastic, especially the chase scene between Batman and the police about 3/4 away through the film. That is an incredible chase sequence, and it's one of my favourite chase sequences in any film ever. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic, and though someone did point out a couple mistakes in it to me, one of which I'd already noticed, I still just love it. It's just absolutely incredible. The Batmobile itself is also cool. It's called the Tumbler in this film, and it's one of the coolest Batmobiles. It is just, you know, awesome in every single way. Speaking of, you know, looking cool as well, Christian Bale's actual Batsuit is also really good. It's got a really unique design to it, and you can tell that it's quite an early on suit as well. It's not like his full, yeah, this is the suit I'm always going to wear. It's quite I don't want to say a temporary suit, but you can tell it's one of his earlier models, because obviously he's very early on in his career. I mean, it's called Batman Begins, and it just looks cool as well. So yeah, oh, and Hans Zimmer's score is one of the best film scores ever, especially the theme Molossus. I think is absolutely incredible, and I actually recommend, if you've got, you know, download it on Amazon Music or Spotify or even buy it off iTunes or Apple Music or wherever you want to use. I recommend you actually download that theme, because it is, incredible, and it is actually really cool to listen to for motivation, or if you're working out, or you're just having a bad day, or you want to have a cool bit of music whilst you're driving, something like that. That's a great theme. It truly is. So yeah, I think it is definitely one of the best comic book films ever made. I certainly would recommend it if you've never really watched any comic book films and you're like, I don't really know what to expect, because they usually aren't they a bit silly, a bit slapstick. This one, absolutely gets rid of that stereotype and is just absolutely amazing. And it's directed by Christopher Nolan, who is my favourite director. He directed Interstellar, Inception, Dunkirk. His new film Tenet will be coming out as well. I mean, he's just an absolutely fantastic director, and it shows that. He shows that in this film. He shows that he's really an incredible director, and this film's beautifully written as well. I think it was written by him and David S. Goyer, if I'm incorrect about that, because I know Dark Knight was also written by his brother as well. I don't think his brother wrote this one, I might be wrong, but he co-wrote and directed this film, and it's incredible. And David S. Goyer also did a fantastic job helping him write it as well. The film is just beautifully written, beautiful plot, beautifully made, beautifully acted, beautiful themes, and just overall looks incredible as well, especially on high definition 4K, Blu-ray, whatever it is you've got. Watch it on that, because it really adds to just show how incredible this film looks. Because a lot of it's practical effects, and practical effects, when done well, tend to be better than any CGI or VFX or anything like that. So it's just a great looking film as well. So overall, I would probably give it a 9.5 out of 10. As film quality, its entertainment value, I would say, is 10 out of 10 and beyond. To me personally, it's beyond 10 out of 10. It's because it's just every time I watch it, it's the first time I'm like, yeah, I fucking love this film. It's just great, absolutely fantastic. So yeah, if you haven't watched it, I recommend you come off the video now, because I will be talking about more spoiler stuff in more detail. So if you haven't watched it, come off now. And if you have watched it and you want to know some of my opinions on certain of the plot points and character stuff in more detail, you can continue watching. So again, if you haven't watched it, leave now. If you have watched it, you're welcome to stay. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was the twist with the main villain, and that's that Liam Neeson's character, who I can't remember what his fake name was, turns out to be the head of the League of Shadows, who were the people that trained Bruce, and he's the one who came to Bruce and said, look, I want to train you to be the ultimate crime fighter. Turned out to be the main villain, called Ra's al Ghul. And a lot of people didn't like that, because they considered it to be whitewashing. They said, and he wasn't like he was in the comics. In the comics, he's actually this supernatural, immortal person who lives lifetime after lifetime by soaking in a thing called the Lazarus Pit. Whereas in this, he's just basically a normal person. I mean, granted, a highly trained person, but he's still, a normal human being. But I actually really liked it. I like that this film took the realistic approach, because that's one of the other things I forgot to mention, was this film feels very realistic. I mean, the whole trilogy do. It's the most realistic superhero trilogy. I mean, you could almost say it actually feels like it could happen, because there's obviously some far-fetched things. There's bits and tech that think, does that exist? Does that work like that? But it doesn't push the boundaries. It doesn't push. They're not unrealistic villains. They're not like Killer Croc or Poison Ivy or anything like that. It's just very grounded villains, a very grounded hero, and a very grounded story. And he turns out to be the main villain because he wanted to destroy Gotham, and that's why Bruce Wayne, when he was training under him, was like, fuck this, and destroyed their base. And he thought Ra's al Ghul had died, but it was actually just a decoy, and it was Liam Neeson was actually the real person. And he, the twist I think was very well done. I love the twist in the house when he shows up at his 30th birthday party and says how he's going to kill everyone there. So Bruce has to pretend to be drunk and acts like an absolute arsehole to get everyone to leave the house. I love that scene. And that leads into probably the most emotional point of the film for me. When Bruce Wayne was a boy, he fell down a pit in the ground, and that's when the bats came out, and he developed the fear for bats. And his dad came down, got him out the pit, brought him to the house and said, why do we fall, Master? Why do we fall, Bruce? So we can learn to pick ourselves back up. Which is a great great line by itself. But then when it cut to earlier, before he left to train or become Batman, when he was just in Gotham and he was this angry, incredibly angry guy. He was almost a murderer. He actually went to kill the guy who killed his parents. He was out of it. He was just full of hatred, and he hated everyone around him as well. He was just really angry, and he was sort of pushing Alfred away, and Alfred was trying to talk to him, and Bruce said, you still haven't given up on me, have you? And Alfred went, never. And then cut back to after the party scene and Ra's al Ghul, and then burnt down his house, which is very sad by itself because it's the only thing he had left of his parents was the house. And they're sitting in the bottom of the lift at the bottom of the Batcave because they escaped through there, him and Alfred, and he says, I destroyed it all, everything my father, my family built. And Alfred says, why do we fall, Master Wayne? Why do we fall, Master Wayne? So we can learn to pick ourselves back up. Bruce says, you still haven't given up on me. And Alfred says, never. Just love that. I mean, that is more emotional and, more beautifully written than most films, let alone comic book films. And I think, as in terms of films that call back on themselves, because you get films that will call back on an earlier moment to drive the story forward later on. This film does it better than any other film, in my opinion, and that's because of reasons like that. The whole plot about Scarecrow putting the chemicals in the water so the League of Shadows can steal this microwave emitter to vaporize all the water in Gotham. Because to basically make everyone turn on each other in this fear-induced hallucination panic mode, which they go into when they inhale it, because it has to be inhaled through the lungs. If you drink it, it won't affect you. You have to breathe it in. You could say it's a pretty extreme way of going about it, but I think it's cool. I like the climax of the film, and the city's absolutely covered in the fear toxin, and Bruce Batman has got the antidote, and he's trying to get to Ra's al Ghul on a train, because a train, it goes across the city's main water flow, and of course everywhere the train goes the water just evaporates with it. He's going to this central hub underneath Wayne Tower to blow up all the water, evaporate it all. And I love that whole climax, because you just get to see the city just tearing itself apart, literally, and Batman trying to get to him, and basically every single person in Gotham City is his enemy, because obviously if you're dressed like a giant bat in a city full of people who are hallucinating, that's going to cause issues. They obviously will see him as a threat, and they do. That whole climax sequence was absolutely incredible. Loved it. Talking about the chase sequence earlier, I love is Bruce Wayne, Batman, trying to get away from the police who are trying to arrest him. But the reason why he's running and causing so much destruction is because Scarecrow has poisoned Rachel, who he's trying to get back to the Batcave to give the so he can give her the antidote, otherwise she'll die. I love that as well, because it puts him in that little, what's the right thing to do here sort of situation. And I love that this film does emphasis on Batman's no-kill rule. He doesn't kill, and he won't kill criminals. He'll fucking break every bone in their body, but he won't kill them. I do like that in his character, particularly in this version, because it does add to it. And I do love, Ra's al Ghul keeps saying to him, "You've never learned to do what is necessary. You never learn to do what is necessary," when Batman won't kill him. I love the ending when Ra's thinks Batman is actually going to kill him and goes, "You finally learned to do what is necessary." And Bruce says, "I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you either." And this is when they're on the monorail. Commissioner Gordon was in the Lieutenant Gordon was in the Batmobile, blows up the monorail with the train on it. Batman jumps out and then leaves Ra's al Ghul to, collapse with the train with the microwave emitter machine. It'll blow up. He dies, and I do like that you can tell Bruce Wayne, Batman, in sort of this sort of moral dilemma of, I don't want to kill him because I don't want to cross that line, but he's too dangerous to let live. I know, I just won't save him. And it's sort of like this weird denial thing, isn't it? Because obviously, if you don't save somebody when you know they're going to die and you have the ability to save them, you are essentially killing them, but you're not directly killing them. And it's like that. He doesn't want to cross that line. He doesn't want to be the one, he doesn't want to be the one who kills them with his bare hands. He just wants to go, no, I'll just let gravity do it. I like that sort of denial, because you can tell he wants to, but he won't go all the way. He'll just go halfway there. And I love that. I love the ending as well, the very last scene, which sets up the Joker. And of course, the Joker was played in the sequel, The Dark Knight, absolutely fantastically by Heath Ledger. May he rest in peace. Fantastic performance. Won't talk about that because that's the next film, but it's a great setup in this film how they do that. So yeah, I just think with this film, it is just top-notch filmmaking. It really is. All the characters are perfect. The side characters, the main character, the villains, everyone. Even like the tertiary characters who are, just in it for a few minutes are even quite cool. Like, there's this Flass, I can't remember his name, this policeman. He's like this sort of dodgy copper guy. He's quite cool as well. Falcone, who plays the mobster who basically runs Gotham, is also very threatening, and he has one of my favourite lines in the whole film, and that's when he puts a gun to Bruce Wayne's head when Bruce Wayne threatened him when he was younger. And he said, "You look around this bar, you can see 2 off-duty cops, a uni official and a judge, and I won't have a moment's hesitation to blow your head off right here, right now, in front of them. And that is power you can't buy. That is the power of fear." Fucking love that line. Brilliant. This line's so quotable. Even like Batman's introduction is like the most quotable thing ever. I know he's not the first person to go, "I'm Batman," and that was terrible, but got a really scratchy throat, so I'm talking a lot. But he's brilliant at it. The way he says it's brilliant, and the whole scene's brilliant. It's, just the way he punches through the car, grabs Falcone, and says, "I'm Batman." But yeah, this film just really is incredible. Especially, like I said, it's just, I don't want to keep saying it over and over again and ranting and not knowing when to end, which is probably how this is coming across now. Because I just think of like there's little things where I'll end the video and go, "Oh, I wish I'd mentioned that. Oh, I wish I'd mentioned that." Even after I wrote a list, went through the list 100 times, I still would have gone, "Oh, but I wish I'd mentioned that as well." But I'll probably do another video on this film or the trilogy again at some point, talking about anything I missed, because I could literally talk about these films for hours and hours on end, because they just really are incredible. The symbolism, the effects, like I said, the action, the characters, the plot, even the dialogue, music, everything about these films are just incredible, really. Well, you know, can't really think of any way else to describe it. It's just incredible. Like I said, it's my favourite trilogy. You know, sorry Lord of the Rings, but these beat you. Probably an unpopular opinion, actually. But yeah, so I really, really do recommend you watch this film. It is really incredible, and you know, if you haven't watched it and you've still stayed for this through the spoilers, well, I'm sorry, but I did say. So yeah, and if you have watched it, you probably agree with me that it is great. You know, there aren't many people who watch it and go, well, that was shit. So yeah, well, thank you for listening to this review. I'll have my review for The Dark Knight up, hopefully soon. And I'll also do Dark Knight Rises shortly afterwards. So yeah, again, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review and me going into a bit more detail. Obviously, this is my first review and first time analysing a film for a video, so hopefully they'll get, you know, better as I go along, and that's why I probably will end up coming back to this, you know, so I can talk about it better once I've improved, you know, my form and what I'm doing. But again, like I said, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any feedback, just let me know, and I hope to see you guys soon. Thank you.